You know, my ideal shop is 30 foot by 40 foot. But as you know, we don't always get what we ask for. So my shop is actually only 10 foot by 16 foot. But come on in, I'll give you a tour. This is where all the magic happens. It is a very small shop. I mean, if you look around, you will see I have utilized almost every single inch of this space. I have wood stashed everywhere, tools everywhere. There's some sides of the shop you've never seen before. There's always one corner everybody hides. Now, one corner I show off all the time, though, is this corner right here. And it has what we call the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and it literally is 800 pounds. It is my lathe. Now, before I talk about the lathe, I had a big decision on which lathe to get. The shop came first, and then the show happened. And I wanted to find a lathe that would be robust and really turn well, but at the same time fit in this small space, because a normal lathe would come to about right here. So if I tried to do any outboard turning, I was going to be in the wall. Brian, who's behind the camera, would be on my shoulders or something, or in the rafters trying to get the shot. Well, I decided upon this lathe, which is a Stubby 1000. It actually comes from Australia. It's a very unique lathe. It is short bed, and I love that because that fits in the shop perfectly. And when I'm doing any bowl turning on the end, I can just step right to the end right here, and I don't have to straddle a bed or anything like that. However, this is the cool part. If I want to do something that's longer, check this out. The bed slides out. So now I have a long bed lathe. Now, there's one other additional thing to this lathe, which is really cool. How many lathes have you seen that have a turret? Now, this feature right here is very, very unique, and it comes in handy when you're doing deep hollowing on a very large piece, so you can swing out to the side and get that angle that you need. Now, there are lots of good lathes on the market, and I'm not saying go out and buy one of these. I'm just saying this is the one that I like, and it works best for my situation. Now, one thing to consider with this lathe, it uses 240 volts, so it takes a different plug and a different wiring diagram, so you're going to have to be prepared for that if you get a lathe that has this much horsepower. Now, tools are really important to me, but tool placement in my shop is really, really important, because I want these little guys to be handy while I'm turning. I don't want to go around the lathe to get something or reach way over there, especially never reach over the lathe. If you have a wall here, that's so dangerous to grab a tool with a spinning lathe. So I have my tool. I can put it right back up here. I really don't even have to move my feet to grab any of these tools and go right back to work. It's very efficient and very quick. And the way I mounted these on here is also very efficient. It's simply a 1-inch thick piece of wood that I took a Forstner bit and drilled through. I split the piece of wood in half and mounted the half up here, so I have this scallop shape and the tool fits right in it. Now down here, this is what it looked like kind of when I was drilling it, and I drilled all the way through and cut it in half, but on this piece I just drilled it down a little bit so the tool would have a place for the butt of the handle to set, and then it leans up in there. This bottom piece comes out a little bit further, so these lean into the wall and they don't fall over. The next consideration on my shop was lighting. We're shooting a TV show and doing a lot of videos in here, so we need a lot of lights. So the economical way to go was with a lot of fluorescent lighting. And some of these lights might look like they have a funny color to them. That's because you can actually go out and buy warm toned fluorescent bulbs, and it's kind of like outdoor lighting, so it makes everything look a little bit prettier. I like that for the video, but I also like for myself. It makes it more enjoyable to be in here. One other light I have is called a Moffat light, and it has a magnetic base on it, which is really cool because you can take it, sticks to the lathe, doesn't come off. And then I use this light by turning it on from the side, so you can see how this is flat lighting on my hand, but when I turn this, you see the shadows. This is how I see all the marks on my wood before I start sanding or finish turning. This way I can see the defects by bringing a light in from the side, because without this, it's even and you don't see all that different detail. When I pop that on, then I can see where I need to improve my turning. Now, another thing I keep close to my lathe is my glue. I use cyanoacrylate glue, and I use a lot of it because cracking wood and attaching different pieces together, you need this type of glue. I have thin, medium, and thick. I also have the accelerator really handy, which helps it seal up or dry up really quickly. But the other thing, the most important thing, don't ask me why I know this, but if you get stuck to a piece of wood with the glue, you have to be able to reach this over here. That is the debonder. This will get you unstuck from your lathe or your project. And again, don't ask me why I know that. And to keep harping on proximity, well, let's talk about the sharpening system. You want this to be within a couple steps of your lathe, because if it's too far away, you're going to be less motivated to walk all the way across your 30-foot by 40-foot shop and sharpen your tools when they need sharpening. And I have a standard setup here, and this is really cool. I'll tell you the honest truth. This is a cheap grinder. It came from Woodcraft. It cost me less than $100. Attached to it, below it, is the Wolverine sharpening system, because I really believe in using a jig system to get consistent grinds on your tools and not to waste a lot of tool steel. And I've set it up, and this is where the beauty part comes in, on an old TV stand. And the TV stand worked out great because it's on wheels. I can move it. It has little drawers where I can hide things underneath and keep the dust off of them. All the things I need to grab that if I'm sharpening something, they're right here. And then over here, I just extended it out with a board so I could keep some other things handy. This is one of the jigs that goes with the Wolverine system. And these are Allen wrenches that go to some of the tools that have handles that you can take off, because you can't sharpen the tool with the handle attached. Now, there are two tools that every wood turner should have, and that is a standing drill press and a bandsaw. Now, the bandsaw for me gets the most work because it's very important to be able to cut up your blanks to a size that will go on the lathe and help you keep things from being out of round or too large or actually wasting a lot of wood. Now, when you consider buying a bandsaw, a lot of people think of this measurement as being the most important measurement. Well, if you're doing a lot of flat wood, it is. But if you're doing regular wood, bowl blanks and things like that, let me grab one here. This is a little bitty one. But imagine if you put a big piece of wood up here that's standing this tall, you need this measurement to be as high as possible so you can take this underneath and rough cut out your blank. You don't need a lot of room this way, you need a lot of room this way. Now, on the drill press, there are many projects you're going to make that you're going to want to drill some holes in, especially if you're doing a lot of pens and pencils, because this is a perfect way to clamp a piece of wood and drill a hole down a blank and make a perfect hole. Now, shifting gears, if you look up, you will see that I have wood stored here. I have wood stored everywhere. I don't have any outside wood storage. So every little piece of wood I have is shoved in some corner somewhere so I can keep it. The wife kind of has me on probation right now to bring any big pieces in, so I don't have any fun stuff. That brings me to here. A work area is so important for assembling and gluing and drawing diagrams and things of that nature. I can't tell you how many times in my old shop I really wished I had a big flat table to lay stuff on. And if you're going to be working at it, you want something nice to sit on, and this is a project we made a while back. We made our own stool for the shop, and it's the perfect height to sit here and work out and draw and glue and do all the work that you need to do here. Now, the other nice thing about this is there's a lot of storage. You always need storage. So, a quick look behind the scenes here. This is my junk drawer catch-all that I keep screws and little blanks and little templates to different projects. I also have tape and things like that that I need in here. I have a little 6-inch straight edge, which is so handy. Over here, I have little plastic bins that I keep all sorts of different drill tips. They're hex, they're Phillips, they're straight blades, they're sockets that I need for all sorts of projects. If I go a little bit lower, it still stays junky, but this is where I start keeping things like the jaws for my chucks, and I keep all of my Allen wrenches. You can tell I'm really well organized here, can't you? And down here is a lot of heavier stuff. I have a bowl coring system in here. I have a really cool new hollowing system that a friend of mine is working on that I'm testing for him. And that brings us over to here. You can never have too many tools, right? So this is the overflow of the tools that I don't have enough wall space to put out. And it's very handy to have those somewhere. Down here, again, some more things. My favorite little guys, Banksia pods and tops. Everybody loves tops. And Here's a snowman that didn't quite make it through the prototype process. And speaking of prototypes, down here, some more prototypes. This was the child's lawnmower down here. This is from a platter that we made one time. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff here, plus Kleenex, because breathing in all that dust can make your nose run a lot. And what causes all that dust? Sandpaper. So I keep all my discs in here, and I have them separated out by grit. And then right below it, I have my different sanding mandrels and mount systems right here. Now this is the disc stuff I keep here. Now I don't use those all the time, but what I use most of the time is sheet sandpaper. So I keep that right behind the lathe up here in this other really well-maintained cabinet. So I have 80 grit, 100 grit, 150, 320, 400, and 600. And I have everything cut up in those nice little sheets that we have another video on YouTube about that will show you how to make these. But this is a homemade system just to keep everything separated out. And if you look over at the door, I have lots of little calipers hanging here. I have my scissors. I learned a long time ago not to use the wife's, so these are my scissors. But again, storage and organization is so important. It might not look really clean in there, but I know what's in there. So when I'm hunting for something, I can find it. Here I keep all my extra glue. I'm not sure why I have these in there, but we'll talk about that later. And then, yeah, let's go straight to rubber gloves after those teeth. I use these a lot for when I'm doing finishes. I keep shot in here. This is what I put into Banksia pod paperweights. It weighs them down. I actually have a little butane torch in here that I can use to do burning and decoration on wood. One thing is super important I have up here is WD-40. And I use the WD-40 on the lathe almost every time after I turn, so I can make sure all the components are clean and that they slide smoothly, because maintenance of the lathe is really, really important. So if you don't take care of it, it won't take care of you. Now in this cabinet, obviously I have a lot more stuff, but one thing I do that I like is to put things in plastic and then label them, because you're going to work on a lot of different projects that require a lot of different things, and by labeling all those I know which ones are which, and I keep everything separated. As you can see, I have a lot of stuff in here, and I try to keep everything in its own spot. And above, as you can tell again, I have more wood storage. But also, see this red thingy right here? That is actually the hose to my air compressor, and it goes down the wall, down here, and it actually goes through, there it is, through the wall, through that hole. I have my air compressor in that little add-on to my shop on the other side, so I don't hear that loud while I'm in here using it. And I do use the air compressor a lot because when I'm sanding, I always take the air compressor and blow off dust between each grit I use, because I don't want to leave a lot of dust on the piece, because it immediately clogs the next piece of sandpaper. Also, when you're hollowing, it's a great way of getting the dust and chips out of the inside of the hollowing. But one thing, if I was to do one thing different about this entire shop, it'd be where I mounted my hose reel for my air compressor. It's very handy. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone and used it. I come back and start to grind something and sharpen a tool, and look, how many of these do I have? I have about 6 of these on the hose right now, because it keeps resting against this wheel and causing a hole. So yeah, if I was to do anything differently, it would be to move the location of this reel. So that's the tour of my shop. I hope I didn't lower your expectations any. I bet you feel a lot better about your shop now. But you know, it really doesn't matter where you turn. It just matters what you turn and if you enjoy doing it. Until the next time, keep turning.